This episode is brought to you by Loot Crate. Would you classify yourself as a geek, gamer, or pop culture nerd? Then this is a subscription box for you. For less than $20 a month, you get 6 to 8 items of gamer and pop culture licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, unique one-of-a-kind items, and more. Make sure you head to lootcrate.com/kindafunny and enter the offer code kindafunny to save $3 on any new subscription. Not that long ago, and depending on where you live, not so far away, Loot Crate blasted off into a voyage across the galaxy, searching the far reaches of space to find universally awesome gear. Using December's Star Wars The Force Awakens loot as the launchpad, we landed on some equally cosmic items from Halo 5 and more. With an exclusive Funko Pop and an exclusive shirt in this month's crate, this is the loot you're looking for. Basically, Loot Crate is like a friend that knows you and loves you and surprises you with an awesome present every month. You have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when the cutoff happens, Jack, that's it. It's over. So go to lootcrate.com/kindafunny and enter the offer code kindafunny to save $3 on your new subscription today. Next topic, final topic of the day comes from patreon.com/kindafunny, where you can submit your topic if you support us at a certain level and get a whole bunch of other cool perks. And it comes from none other than Kenny Char again. We're busting out 2 Kenny Chars here.
Charmeleon.
This one's been in the hopper for a while. It's going to sound big at the beginning, but then
Okay, good.
Okay. Who are some of your favorite documentarians? I generally prefer fiction to nonfiction, but there's just something about a good documentary that fascinates me. My choice is probably a common yet solid one, Ken Burns. Just a supremely talented filmmaker, and his Civil War is a masterclass in documentary filmmaking. Thanks, and kinda funny. I say expand the question to what documentaries do you enjoy? Because I'm sorry, I watch shitloads of documentaries. It's probably what I watch the most. Well, Steimer's always mad at me because I never want to watch fiction, but I don't know who made all of them.
Yeah, the issue is most of the documentaries that you've seen that are actual documentaries.
Sure.
You don't know who made them because it's not about that person's personal agenda.
Right.
The most famous documentarian on the planet probably is Michael Moore.
Right.
But he's not
really making documentaries.
He is not making fucking documentaries. He's making a statement with his films, which is not necessarily, I don't believe it's true documentary filmmaking. I just watched recently a great documentary called Soaked in Bleach, which is the conspiracy behind, or the conspiracy theory behind how Kurt Cobain died. Are you familiar with this?
I know.
A lot of people think Courtney Love killed him. And this has a lot of really interesting, damning evidence.
Really?
But it also doesn't present the other side.
Yeah.
Right? So what it says is all the things that the Seattle Police Department fucked up and why that they should at least reopen the case, which is interesting. And that some could argue that's what documentary film is used for.
Is it on Netflix?
It's on Netflix. It's great. You should definitely check it out. It's beautifully made too, by the way, because they do what they do is they do dramatic reenactments that are beautifully filmed. They look like film. They look like a movie. And then because the story really follows the main person who was the investigator that she hired to find him when he'd gone missing, even though about halfway through he was like, "You're lying to me. I'm going to start recording all these conversations." And so in the dramatic reenactments, the dialogue in the scene will cut out and the real recording will pop in. And throughout the whole film, and you're like, holy shit, she is literally incriminating herself right now. She's saying like, yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I said
but if you watch this, it's pretty hard to not at least think they should reopen the case. Now, the problem I have with it is it doesn't do a good job of presenting the investigator on the scene of the day and what he was thinking and why they chose to rule it a suicide, even though they do bring in like New York NYPD, like homicide detectives who are like, you're out of your fucking mind. You don't rule something as a suicide the day of. Like, you got to wait for the forensic autopsy to come back, all the information and then the pictures and all stuff. I don't want to spoil it for you. It's really cool. But at the same time, I watched I watch a lot of those ESPN documentaries.
You can't steal it. 30 for 30 was going to be my pickup.
Yeah.
They do amazing work.
And I don't know who does them. They usually bring in guest directors.
What are you laughing at, motherfucker?
So you can't steal that?
Yeah.
I like that.
That's mine. I was going to say that.
No, I
and so
know.
now he's
like it.
Come here, Kev. Give me a pound. I love this guy. Good
Show
job.
the camera your belly button.
Show him what?
No, don't do it. Keep it just for me. Cry.
He's showing his belly button right now.
Lubricate your belly button with your own tears.
Don't stop. Please stop. Please.
No, those are great, but yeah. I mean, they bring in a guest director.
But that's why it works, right?
Yeah.
Is that 30 for 30 and then different, but they're treated so well and with such reverence.
Yeah, I mean, for instance, the one that I remember most, I think, was Bo Jackson.
Bo Jackson's is really good, really sad.
You're like, fuck, this is kind of sad, and it doesn't paint him in a bad light.
Yeah.
But it does paint the picture of someone who had a great career, and then it just like that.
Jordan
was
rides
gone.
the bus, another great one. Bride of the Boss.
That was good. The Boss is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
The Boss
Some
is
of that
awesome.
but that's some of my things
Some
like
of that's a little propaganda.
little stage when they're like in the storage unit. I'm like, all right, like this isn't really happening right here. But
So that's where you have
not
to.
that I don't think his emotions are real.
Yeah, but I mean that's where you have to draw the line now. Is like filmmaking is a lot of documentary filmmaking borderlines on reality filmmaking in that
Sure.
you're staging a lot of the stuff. You're not really you're writing the story ahead of time to fit the characters that you're interviewing versus, you know, you go in there and I mean, I guess Ken Burns probably does that too. Where he does a lot of
Ken Burns is
he
amazing.
does a lot of historical research and then finds people that back up sort of what his version of that history is. But to me, a documentary is you go and you interview a lot of people, and then in the interview, you sort of find whatever the story is.
Yeah,
right?
Gotcha.
And for instance, I have a friend of mine who I haven't seen it yet. Did a documentary about autistic people who find love, and I'm like, that's cool, right?
How about Rabbit Fever?
Rabbit Fever was a good documentary actually,
Yeah.
because it painted if you're not familiar with this, one of my good friends, Amy Doe,
Our
did a
friends, but
documentary.
it's cool. No, just your friend.
She
I
hates
never
you.
knew
She
her.
fucking
Oh,
hates you.
cool.
She said literally, I fucking hate.
I'm in the liner credits or whatever, buddy.
You are, so am I. She did a documentary about rabbit shows, like Best in Show, but for rabbits, which I didn't think was a world that ever existed.
Rabbit shows?
Rabbit.
It's like
Rabbits.
Bunny rabbits.
no, I'm
Funny
familiar.
rabbits.
Yeah.
So literally
Like dog
there's-
shows, but for rabbits.
Yeah. They have,
Interesting.
Borrowed. It's out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you ever
crazy.
meet Amy Doe?
I know. I've met her a couple times.
Okay.
She
Correct.
knows who I am.
Sure. Well, now
Probably
she
not.
does. You're internet famous.
Yeah,
You're
you're
right.
internet famous. But that was a good documentary because the people that were in it, I think both sides of it were painted right. They're well aware that this is an absurd passion of theirs.
Sure.
But they don't give a fuck and they like it anyway. And that was the point of the story. Is
Yeah.
like, you can indulge in your passions, just own it, and fuck everyone else for what they think, right? They love rabbits. They want to go to the show. We got a little glimpse behind that. I'm like, I'm never stepping foot in one of those places because it's terrifying. But more power to you if that's your thing.
Yeah, I think that's the power of documentaries is making you care about stuff that you don't care about. For me, you know, a lot of people have seen The Exit through the gift shop.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
Exit
a
the gift shop.
fucking
The,
awesome
like the whole
documentary.
Banksy thing and all that stuff, and that's cool. And that's like, oh, it's this world that we don't know about. Now that's a little bit different because he's kind of mainstream, and it's cool to like him.
Well, it's also hard to define that as a documentary because about midway through,
Whatever it
Banksy
is.
hijacks it,
Yeah.
and it becomes it totally flips itself on its own fucking head, and you're like, what the
And
hell's
all right,
happening here? And it's
whatever.
awesome, but it's a perfect way to describe sort of who Banksy
that
is.
stuff, yeah. But so something similar, like he does graffiti and all that stuff. For a long time, my brother was really into graffiti. And
Would
like,
you say he
illegal
was juiced
graffiti.
about it?
He was juiced about it. He definitely
He was juiced about illegal graffiti. Thank you.
and it's illegal graffiti, like not legal graffiti. Like,
Illegal.
making it clear, illegal graffiti.
Sure.
And there's a huge history of that in New York and San Francisco specifically. And there's a documentary called Piece by Piece. And I remember watching it, and it's just a bunch of hoodlums. Like, it's just a bunch of people that are doing illegal things.
Hood rats doing hood rat
illegally.
stuff.
But it's like, it made me shift from looking at this thing and being like, this is just straight up wrong, to still thinking it's wrong, but being like, I get it. Like, I understand why you would do this and the culture that it creates and what it does. And so it's like the rabbit thing. You're not into rabbits, but hearing that other people are, it's really interesting. And I think it's a great documentary because it made me get it, even though I don't agree.
Ah, yeah.
And that is a good
cool.
documentary.
That
You
is
know?
the power of documentary filmmaking. right
But
there.
otherwise, like, I don't really know too many. Like, I love documentaries, but I don't really know too many that I can think and be like, I loved that. Like Helvetica, the documentary.
You know, I have not seen that yet.
Oh, really?
Typeface one, yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool.
I
It's
still
just like
haven't
the
seen it.
history of a font, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I like that. That's
love shit
obscure
like
and
that.
random enough that I'm into it. There isn't enough documentaries about things that I'm interested in that I like. Like, there's one that I saw about Legos, and I'm like, didn't really like get me the way I wanted
Sure.
to. I think about
Oh,
video games. Like, there's not really a documentary I've seen that
King
I'm
of
like,
Kong? Did
I'm-
you like King of Kong?
It was all right, but there hasn't been one that I'm like, this is
And
awesome.
does that count as? I'm always worried about what counts as a
Yeah,
documentary.
no,
if I'm
so this
nailing
is
it
this
right.
definitely doesn't count. But game trailers, I'm talking about back in the day. I don't know if they still do this, but they did the retrospective things where they do like 10-part series looking at Zelda, and they'd kind of like talk about the story of the games, but also talk about the history of the games and who made them and like how it shifted and stuff. And I'm like, this is really cool. And I hope that one day, and I think we're getting to the point now where people are looking at games that way, where we do get to go back and kind of interview the people
Sure.
and have it be like that, like documentary style, where it's like you just get the key people involved and talk to them for hours and then make a story out of it.
I mean, it's navel gazing in a way, but I was a big fan of on that thing, IGN's 10th documentary about IGN's 10th.
Oh,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Remember
No,
that?
that
'Cause
was great.
I was only there a couple months or maybe a year at that point, but they
made that. Did I
you
make
did.
that?
Yeah. They brought in Aaron Boulding and everybody and talked
They
about
brought
like
in,
it was like
old guys.
it was like people I had only read stuff from or seen videos of, but brought them all in. And they did that and produced it in 4 parts. It was really good.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and like that was when I watched it when I was interning
the
at
20th one.
IGN, and it was just interesting seeing like the birth of this place that is now such a bigger thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it like that series makes IGN look like this.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it was. I mean, I remember when we were doing that. I co-produced it. There was a lot of other guys that were helping me out because obviously I was like, I have no idea what I didn't really know what IGN was when I started working there. That's the big joke because I was like, I never read this site. I really don't fucking know what this is. It sounds like a cool place to work, and it was. But it was awesome doing that because I was like, oh, I'm actually getting an insider's perspective on the lineage of this great organization that has weathered this fucking crazy storm of .com bust.
Mm-hmm.
And when you see some of the images of like the building they used to take up and how they got relegated to like a small portion of it, and it's just a sea of those really expensive Aeron chairs that are just collecting dust, I'm like, that is a perfect image for the late 90s, early 2000s .com bust.
Yeah.
That was fun to make. And that was cool. That was more just like a history piece too. There was no point to that. Like I wasn't good enough as a filmmaker back then to have been like, we should
Oh, sure.
we should broaden this
and that's
out
the whole
and put
thing
it
is
in
like
context and pretend because we could have using and this is what I like with that. Did you see the Atari documentary about the ET?
No, I
dig
know
on
of
ET?
it. I know of it.
It's framed around the digging up the cartridges in ET and how they had to go find them and figure out where they were and maybe they didn't know they were going to be there and voila, they were there.
Oh, what a surprise.
But it is the bigger story is how the rise and fall of Atari and how they were once a titan and then are now pretty much nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically an analogy for the industry at that time, which is really, really cool. I wish we could have done that with IGN because it would have been a really, really pertinent piece on the .com bust. We could have actually probably made something very, very cool. But as a history piece, it worked out.
I liked this is again like these are movies I haven't watched in a long time, but I remember loving Beyond the Mat. Remember that in the Brett the Hitman Hart documentary that just happened to follow him while he got screwed over and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
a lot of wrestling stuff, like a lot of the behind the DVDs that they would release. And they're not necessarily documentaries.
Yeah, the ones officially from WWE definitely aren't documentaries, but
like,
they're great looks behind the curtain.
scenes looks that are like documentary-esque in a lot of ways, and those are excellent. Like it really, wrestling is such a fascinating thing because it's fake, but all right, they're still doing these things, and there's characters, but the characters are real people, so they're actors, and there's so many layers to it. Because then it's like, all right, then we see the behind the scenes. Are those behind the scenes people also actors? You know what I mean? Like, where does the character end? Like, Triple H, right?
Yeah.
He has his in stage persona, then he has his backstage on camera persona, then he has his backstage documentary persona, and then there's the real him. And it's like watching those videos, it's really cool because you kind of get to see all 4 of those people in one person.
Right. Yeah, that was the thing with like, especially I'm thinking, Beyond the Mat and everything else, that's Attitude Era. That's right as it all changed, right? And they really gave up the ghost of like having, hiding what really wrestling is or whatever. And I think that's the reason I have that affinity for Mick Foley, right? And stuff, because like, I remember when they put out that Faces of Foley VHS tape and it's him talking to the Hardy Boys, who were nobody at the time. They were like just people they brought out and they knew one day they were going to deal with. Do you not know who the Hardy Boys are?
No, I do. I thought Kevin was sleeping.
Okay, no,
I heard him
fine.
breathing hard.
And he's talking to them about it, and then Beyond the Mat followed him, and then he was blowing up that point, but it was like Beyond the Mat was that one that gave you the glimpse of his family, right? And then I got the book Have a Nice Day or whatever, and like you read through it all and you feel like you know him, and that's like when right? Jesus. Last year at New York Comic Con, right? Last year is when we went to New York Comic. I went to New York Comic Con for the last time. Yeah. As IGN, and I was sitting there working. And they brought in Mick to interview him or whatever, and it was him and Goldman, I think, talking about that Santa movie he did, which was good, and also a documentary about being Santa, which timely, maybe if one that goes up, watch it. But when the interview finished, he said something about he's got to take. My little boy wants to go da 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 whatever, or he doesn't want to go there anymore. I turned around, I'm like, man. That's crazy, Hey, Mick, Dewey doesn't want to do that or whatever. He's like, Dewey's 22 now. I was talking about my other son. I was like, oh my God, like your life has moved on. But I knew him so well for that one period of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's That's why I love Netflix, right? There's all these documentaries that you never would have even like.
Yeah.
Back in the day, a documentary would come out, and unless they gave it a huge marketing push, you were probably like, I'm never gonna see that fucking thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Unless it was like a Michael Moore documentary, or Morgan Spurlock, who everyone loves Morgan Spurlock. Who's the guy that did the
Super Size Me.
Super Size Me, and I'm like, I don't get your point here, buddy. I watched that movie and it actually kind of pissed me off because I'm like, I don't think this is really addressing the problem that we have.
Yeah.
Because if you eat anything in excess for that long, you're gonna probably gain weight.
There was, I mean, a million people have done it, but like I remember there's some famous professor who did it and ate McDonald's 3 times a day for whatever.
But
and
he picked a salad.
60 pounds.
Yeah.
No, he
CEO of McDonald's
did it. Well, cool. Is he
Yeah.
the professor I'm talking about? No. Fucking play your Vita game, you piece of shit potato. I'm gonna get this potato thing to take off.
That last picture really makes me feel like a fucking.
Yeah, you're fine, buddy.
I love you. No, but anyways, sorry. Yeah, and he lost weight, and he was like, "This isn't surprising. Stop eating when you're full, and work out or the exercise. Like, yes, if you eat to excess to where you're vomiting in the parking lot and doing all this stuff, then yeah, you're gonna be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that. So that's where I think you start to get the
skew,
the bastardization of what a documentary is supposed to be. That was
an entertaining movie.
but it was propaganda, right? That was hey, I have a point to prove, and I'm trying to be a celebrity, so I'm gonna go do this crazy fucking thing. That was, and I don't mean this as an insult, a Tim Gettys maneuver right there. Like, and it made him famous, and now he's doing a series on CNN.
Yeah,
right. Good for him. He still has that horrible face mustache thing.
Why do you hate this man so much?
Because because I was an overweight person. I was like, you're doing a disservice to people.
Yeah,
because you're going into fucking McDonald's
Some fucking
and you're
bullshit.
eating 2,000 calories at a time. What you should be doing, what he should have done, was gone in and done a fucking documentary about how to lose weight at McDonald's. That would have been fascinating.
Sure.
Hey, I'm eating this 3 times a day, and I lost 20 pounds. How did he do it? Oh, portion control, understanding nutrition, having a salad, drinking water instead of cola. No, all he showed was that if you go to McDonald's, you're a fat ass, and I just don't appreciate that because I like me some McDonald's every once in a while.
I get that.
But yeah, going back to your wrestling documentary, did you see the one about the Iron Sheik?
Oh yeah,
Fuck.
but that's another weird one.
Fuck, man. Yeah, it wasn't.
It was like it was a great documentary, and then all of a sudden it's just like this dude gets introduced, and he's like, "Yeah, I grew up with the Sheik and this, that, and the other," and then all of a sudden it's like you're knocked over the head with this footage that's clearly like 4 years old. And you're like, "Oh, you made this movie, but you just dropped in like in the last quarter to tell me about the Sheik's drug problem and how you pulled him out." I'm like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Yeah,
Great movie.
There's a sort of like level of documentary that has hit Netflix because I think people are realizing that they can get something on Netflix. At least they could a few years ago pretty easily if it was of a certain amount of production quality.
Sure.
So I saw a few in line. I saw that one. I saw there's a movie, a documentary about Drew Struzan who does the posters for Star Wars and
Oh, that sounds
he did all those.
awesome.
It was cool, but again, it's less of a documentary, more of just like, hey, he's just kind of telling the story, and his wife's
Gotcha.
like, this is what happened, and it's cool. But it could be. It's one of those that like should only be like 45 minutes, but they had to make it like at least an hour. And then there's one about John Milius that is similar to that, but it's a really cool story, and you should check it out. I think his name is John.
No, John Milius.
Yeah, John Milius.
Red Dawn.
Did Red Dawn.
Colin
did
would
Conan
be
the
freaking out
Barbarian.
right now. Yeah.
Went to school with Spielberg, Lucas, and Zemeckis, and all those guys.
They
like,
come and talk about him,
during
right?
that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking cool to see this guy, but he was just too outrageous to like exist in Hollywood. So that's a good one too if you like those.
2 years ago, on Netflix they released Turtle Power, which is a hour-long documentary on the history of Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's it's more of a history than a documentary thing, but I thought it was cool and interesting, and like it kind of explains the story of Eastman and Laird and how they created these things, and they kind of fell apart as creators, and like how they don't really like each other. And at the end, it kind of showed how they're like trying to reform together a little bit.
Some
but
fucking money.
still, there's
It happens
some,
to
like,
all the greats. It
budding
happened to
stuff,
Hall &
but
Oates.
it was interesting because it didn't sugarcoat it as much as it could have.
Mhm.
Because I think it's an official Ninja Turtles thing.
Yeah, that's the problem, and that's my fear. We were talking earlier on Gamescast about what's happening with Hideo Kojima and things like that. Someone will do a documentary about that one day, but will they go as in depth as they need to go?
It's gonna be Nick.
Oh, I'd love to.
You're going
let's
in.
do
I would
it.
fucking love to do a documentary about that.
We lay the groundwork in our Japan trip
We
that
could.
Tim is now going
We could.
on.
The problem is, I don't know a lot about the Japanese culture, but they're not ones to really put that shit out there.
But-
Unlike America, where we're like, I'm just rearing to sell my story and my soul to make a little bit of money.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure Kojima has a little. It's
If
called
Hideo
honor, I
Kojima
think.
was going to open up to anybody, it's this face. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Game Over Greggy show each and every week. 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather around this table, each bring a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you can toss us a few bucks, get every episode early, get exclusive stuffs, get your questions read on the air like Kenny Char and Tack Track did today. and of course support our dreams. If you have no money or don't like our dreams and don't want to support us, go over to youtube.com/kindoffunny where we put it up topic by topic, day by day, until the entire show posts for free on Fridays as one big MP3 and video
This is the last time you're going to see us
on camera.
when we haven't seen Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Nope, that's the wrong theme. Still John Williams. Wrong theme.
Oscar! Till next time, it's
That
been a
was-
pleasure to serve you.
That wasn't even that was fucking
Short
short.
serve.